Hello everyone, and welcome to Code Labs Academy, the best place for you to learn new concepts in tech. It's me, Yusra Farhani, UX UI designer at Code Labs Academy, and today I'll be with you to help you discover the amazing Figma tool in our free workshop. The workshop is going to be about how to prototype or how to use Figma in order to create prototypes or interactive prototypes. Now, before getting our hands dirty with Figma, mo- sorry, most of you heard about the terms of UX and UI design, maybe via articles or social media or LinkedIn. And of course, you are wondering, what do you mean or what do we mean with these terms? And most of you saw a lot of digital interfaces or a lot of digital products every day, maybe in their PCs or smartphones or smart TVs. And of course, you've been wondering, am I capable to design these interfaces? For example, a beautiful interface of a mobile application or this beautiful website about NFTs. So, in this workshop, we'll be discovering all of these things. We'll be seeing or discovering what is UX and UI design, how to prototype, and how to create design systems in order to start making prototypes using Figma. So, what is UX design? User experience design or UX design is a very important term in the tech field. So, most of us heard about it, and most of us can guess what do we mean by user experience design. So, user experience design is not about creating experiences or just like shaping experiences. User experience design is about understanding the needs of the target users. We have a big target of users, which are, for example, students. I need to design something or a useful product for these students. So I'm going to start understanding their needs for first, then understand the market needs, whether we need this product in the market or no, then understand the business needs or value in order to design an accessible and a useful product. Now, this is user experience design. So, what is UI design? So, UI design or user interface design stands for the layout or the interface that the user is going to see while leaving the designed experience. So let's imagine that I designed an experience of an app or a platform that can help students to get courses and to share courses and to discuss like exercises together and so on. And now I'm going to make this experience alive. So what I'm going to do is to design a user interface. So the user is going to leave the designed experience throughout the interface that I'm going to design. So the UI design stands for user interface, and it is the process of designing interfaces and bringing up elements like buttons, colors, shapes, icons, and so on, and assuring that everything feels united, feels consistent, both aesthetically and in purpose. So when designing something or putting something in my interface, it needs to have a purpose and it needs to be aesthetically nice in the eyes of my users. Now, here's the difference between UX and UI design. So user experience design cares more about the interaction, how the app is going to be, how the experience is going to be, and how the user is going to live this experience. For example, is going to open an account, add something, or delete something, or like search for something. It is about making wireframes, making like the first version of the interfaces, and the UI design is about the visual, is about the colors, is about everything aesthetic and desirable in the eyes of the users. Now, how to prototype? Prototyping is a term that you can find it a lot in the user interface world. So as you see in the illustration, here's or these illustrations or these like sketches called prototype. So, what is prototyping? Prototyping is about giving life to the black and white wireframes using a tool like Figma. So I'm going to wireframe things or create sketches. Then I'm going to open one of the one of the prototyping tools, for example, Figma, Sketches, Adobe XD, or like Framer or InVision or any type of the prototyping tools. Then I'm going to make my prototypes there. So the main qualities of a prototype. First of all, a prototype means a representation because in the tech industry or the business industry, we always work with MVPs or minimum viable products, and a prototype can be an MVP. So it can like represent what we're aiming to do or what the business is going to be or look like at the final, since we're going to like create an interactive prototype which is similar to the final product but with no implementation. So the prototype help us to represent things, to represent the app or the value or the product and how it's going to be. The second thing is about the precision. Now, the precision, when we talk about it, we talk about a very common term, which is fidelity. So, fidelity is about the number of details there is in the product. So, as much as you increase the number of details, the fidelity of your product will increase. So mainly we start with wireframes, which are these sketches, and we can say that they are like 30% fidelity. Then we try to jump from wireframes to low fidelity prototypes, which are like 60% fidelity. Then we jump to the high fidelity prototype, increasing the number of details, adding colors and illustrations and so on. And once we add micro animations, we jump to high fidelity prototypes or interactive prototypes, which are the final rendering or the final design. The third term about prototypes is the interactivity. So prototypes needs to be interactive. Prototypes needs to like engage with users in the board. So the user have to see or must see an interactive interface with fancy animations that motivates him to do actions and to click on buttons. And the last thing is the evolution. So when we talk about evolution, we talk about usability testing. So as much as you test your product with users or with customers, you will get feedbacks, and these feedbacks will help you to like improve your product and get to the best version of your product. So the product will be evaluated every time you test it with your users. Now here's like a roadmap or like steps to do prototyping. Now, first of all, before start like sketching wireframes, you have to make something called the sitemap, and you will be discovering what is a sitemap right now. Then we jump from sitemaps to create wireframes, from like wireframes to create high fidelity prototypes. So low fidelity prototypes are like the visuals that you've seen before, then to high fidelity prototypes, and finally to the interactive prototype, which is the last or the final rendering or the final product of the UI designer. Sorry. So here's another like representation of the like steps to create prototypes. Now, first of all, we start with an idea. We try to sketch our idea, how it is going to be. We try to implement our idea using one of the prototyping tools without adding colors or like illustrations or so on. After that, we jump to create our interactive prototype, which is a fancy prototype when we add like icons and animations and colors and so on. Now, Let's discover the sitemap. So the sitemap, as you've seen or you are seeing in this illustration, it defines like the general architecture of the product, the number of pages, and the navigation. So before the UI designer starts designing or implementing the different interfaces or the different pages of his product, he needs to define the general architect, how the app is going to be, how the navigation of the user is going to be, and how many pages or interfaces you are or we're going to design. So mainly you should make something called the sitemap. Here, for example, we have home. The home is the main page. We have the parents. So here in the parents, for example, I have the feed, I have the chat, and I have the profile. In, for example, in the chat, I can have the audio call, the messages, and the video call. And in the audio call, I can have like a space to add filters. So here's like an architect of one of the functionalities in my app. And here's like how to define the general architect. Like we can dive in it, and it's like something really really interesting, and it has like keys and so on. But like just to help you understand things at the beginning, here's a sitemap, and you have to create your sitemap before start wireframing or prototyping. Now, jump into the wireframe. Wireframes are the alpha version of your interactive prototype. So before like starts wireframing, prototyping, sorry, we have to make wireframes. So wireframes are black and white sketches. Mainly, we do them using pen and paper. Why? Because it is the best way to have good ideas and to generate creative ideas. Because like when you don't have a distraction between you and the ideas in your brain, things will be so fluid, and the process of generating creative ideas will be more or much more easier and simple. One more thing about using pen and paper in wireframes is that they are not expensive, and they allow you to like um, delete or brainstorm or like generate a lot of ideas by just drawing them. And like even if they are not really understandable, but at least you have ideas and you're going to implement them later. Now that's all about like the process of prototyping, and we'll be discovering how to prototype using Figma later. Now let's discover the design system. So I guess I've been like talking at the beginning of the workshop about design system and how to create a design system. Now, as you see in this illustration, this is a design system. Here we have colors, we have text, and we have cards and elements and buttons and so on. So, what is a design system? A design system is a set of elements and components that get combined together in order to design a product. So the design system is mainly just a set of elements and components that the UI designer have to create and share with his team in order to create a certain product. So, why do we need a design system? You might be asking the question, I'm going to design on my Figma space, so why should I create a design system? Now, a design system facilitates consistency. You can imagine that you're working with your team on a product, and uh, mainly, as we see in all the interfaces, for example, in this interface, here everything is consistent. What do you mean by consistency? All like we have one main color, which is like the blue, we have the white, we have like some secondary or added colors or additional colors, which are like the orange, the purple, and this shade of blue. And mainly we have circles in the design. We don't have anything sharp here. We have the same type of font, the same family of fonts. and like our design is consistent. Here, for example, we have the same button here and here. We have the same size of these circles, this one and this one. And the text, for example, we have the same size, the same colors, and so on. So this called consistency. And once you create your design system, you will assure consistency 100%. Why? Because you are not going to invent new elements and the new sizes and the new components every time, but you're going to set like all of your components, everything at the beginning of the design process, then you're going just to use them over and over in order to create your interfaces. Now, the second thing about creating design systems is to better communicate with your team. So as a UI designer, you are not going to, or UX designer, you're not going to work alone. Whether you're going to work with another UI UX designer in the team, or you're going to work with other like developers or marketing managers or so on. So you have to share your prototypes with them. First of all, let's get to the example of working with another UI designer. Let's imagine that you're working remotely with another UI designer from a different country. And since Figma is one of the collaborative tools, you and the other designer can work together on the same space. Now, when creating a design system, you're going like to follow up the same elements, or to follow up the same design and to use the same elements. And as the UI designer, like even though he's not working with you at the same project or in the same board, Figma board, but just like sharing with him the design system, you're going to assure the consistency. And once he will send you like the interfaces that he was working on, like you're definitely not going to change anything, or you're just going to change some minor things in order to follow up 100% consistency in your prototypes. So design systems are so powerful in this way. Clarity to developers. Now, as I said before, you can work with developers all along the way, especially because you're going to design or to help developers decide how the product is going to be. So, the design system contains like the code of colors, the border radius, the type of fonts, the size of fonts, which are things that can help developers to write their codes easily and not like to think and back to the prototype, click on it and try to guess what color is this or what size is this. So the design system has a very important role in clarifying things or work for developers. Now to iterate faster or to iterate faster. Now, as I said before, like by creating a design system, you're going just to use or reuse the components and, for example, just change the labels. I'm going to design like how the button is going to be in the disabled state, in the hover state, and in the normal state. Now I'm going to duplicate my button and use it over and over in all the prototype in order to avoid working or creating buttons again. Now, here's how the design system looks like, or the core components of the design system looks like. So, first of all the main thing about the design system is the colors. Now we have like colors. We have also typography, and we'll be discovering each of these components alone. We have typography, we have images, we have layouts and icons, we have animations, we have copy and illustrations. Here's like eight main components. Mainly we work with only six, and the other ones are additional. Now for the colors, here's like this one, we call it a palette of colors. To create your design system, you need to define the colors palette. And the colors palette generally has a relationship with the users and the user's needs. For example, I'm going to design an app that for example, for people who are like uh, or who likes art, and I wanted like to make the interfaces fancy for artists. Now I'm going to inspire from the sky, and I took a picture of the sky and I tried using the color pen tool to like take off all the colors that I found in this picture, add the code of each color, and try to combine them together in order to design my interface. So colors are so important, and we can't imagine an interface without colors. The second element is typography. Typography is not just about like writing text, it is about shaping text. So typography is about what is going to be in that text, for example, whether it's going to be click or add or delete or start, and how the text is going to be represented in the eye of the users. So in typography, we talk about family of fonts and type of fonts and so on, and we'll be discovering that later in Figma. Here's we call these illustrations, and sorry, we call these like images or uh, like pictures, and we need them all along the way to represent things for our users. Icons, like in icons are something really really important in the user interface because like they help the user to understand the meaning of many functionalities, buttons, and they help guiding the user or in the interface. So for icons, like we have many type of icons. We have colored icons, we have one color icons, we have like sharp icons, rounded icons, filled icons, only stroke icons, and so on. We have like a lot of types of icons, and to keep consistency in our interfaces, we have to use one type of icons in the whole product, and not like jumping from colored to black and white icons in the same product. Now here's our illustrations. Illustrations like they help you explain things for users and guide them, and like they are so expressive. In Figma, you can like discover plugins that help you to get free illustrations and modify them and use them. Now, for animations, animations are the core of the to have like a good user experience and fancy interfaces, and can like animate by like creating simple animations, or we can like animate them using some of the websites to animate or using After Effects. Now here's like how the wireframes and the mockup and the prototypes looks like. So here we have wireframes, they have no details. Jump into the high fidelity prototype or the mockup, which is like colored with illustrations but with no animations. And now this is the interactive prototype with fancy animations that can help the user to engage on board. Now, here's the layout as you saw before. So in the design system, we saw colors, typography, images. Now it's about icons, animations. Now let's discover the layout. So the layout mainly composed of rows and columns. So you can have a layout to structure elements and to well organize your elements in your screen. So the layout can be made of rows or columns, and mainly for like for mobile applications, we have 4 columns, and for websites, we have 12 columns. We'll be discovering that later on Figma. I'm just like explaining for you before start using Figma so that you can follow up with me. And like mainly the main importance of using a layout grid is to structure your elements in your interface. Now let's talk about the copy. So the copy is about the different text or um, like messages that you are displaying for your users. Now it is so important to think about that. It is so important to know what you're going to write for the user, because like the text is the line of communication between the user and the interface. Now, that's all about the design system. We'll be discovering later how to create your own design systems using Figma. So now let's jump to discover what is Figma. So Figma is a collaborative web-based graphic editing and user interface design tool. Figma is like one of the famous design tools that can help you to do user interface design, wireframe websites, apps, and prototype and create many pieces of art. So Figma is a collaborative tool because you can like share your product or your project with a lot of people and invite them to work with you. It can like be either as a desktop version or a web app version. For me, I'm using the web app version, but you can also download the desktop version of Figma. And now, like Figma, as I said, is a very amazing tool, and we'll be discovering in the practice what is Figma, how to use it, and how you are going to like practice using Figma. Now, here's like the Figma board, and now it's time to practice. Here's like, let's just check the recording. Yeah. Now here's the Figma board, and once like you open or you create your account in Figma, well, let's like let me open a new project for you, just like to help you see and discover what is Figma. So let's back to files. Once you open your account in Figma, you're going to end up in this page where you can like start a new design file where you can like design and prototype, or start a new Figma file when you can like brainstorm and make diagrams. So mainly for the Figma file, it is for UX design, and UX designers use Figma in order to brainstorm, create the different flowcharts, and to create sitemaps too. Now we're not going to discover Figma, we're going to discover Figma. So by opening a new design file, you'll be ending in this page. So this one. Here you can like name the project that you're going to work on. For example, I will call it Figma Workshop. Here is the folder where I'm putting all of my projects. Now it is for drafts. And here's my interface, or my Figma interface. Now let's discover it like thing by thing. First of all, you're going to see yourself here. So here's your profile. Whether you're working alone or working with other people, the people who's going to join your project will appear here. So how to ask for people to join your project? Just by clicking on share, adding the email of the person X. You can like even invite him to view or to see things, or invite him to edit. Then you can send him the invitation. Once done and he's opening your product, you are going to see him here. You can either chat or create threads, for example, by clicking on the comments tool. I didn't like this icon, so I'm going to write here, I don't like the icon. And like The other designer is going to come here and to react whether he's with me or he's not with me, and he's going to reply on me to create a thread. Why? Now we'll be discussing why he's not liking this icon and we'll be changing it together. So here's like why Figma is a collaborative tool. And they are saying that they are going to be or to have a voice channel in order to help designers discuss things using their voice. It's going to be in the new release of Figma, but we don't know when. Now, let's back here. So in Figma mainly you have this toolbar, or this like when you can see all the tools of Figma. Here when you can see the space you're working on, and here where you can see the layers. So first of all, let's discover these spaces. Here we have the design space, the prototype space, and the inspect space. For the design space, here we can do everything concerning the design, to create shapes, to create elements, to do a lot of things using this in this space of the design. Here for the prototyping, we can add animations. When clicking on prototype, everything will looks like elements to be animated. So as you see here. Now for the inspect, here when you can help developers in order to have the code, for example, the CSS, the iOS or the Android code of the interface that you've designed. Now let's back to design, which is the most important parts of Figma. To design, first of all, I will be showing you the different tools of the design. We have the move tool. By clicking on V or clicking here on the move tool, you can move the different elements in your space. And we have the frame tool. By clicking here on clicking F on your keyboard, you will be having the different frames that you can use to design your interface. For example, we have phone frames, iPhone 13, iPhone 11, iPhone 8, Android, small or large. We have the different frames or artboards for tablet. We have for desktop, for presentations, for watch because we can design even prototypes for Apple Watch, for example. For paper, for example, I'm going to design a poster. For social media, posters and covers and so on. And here's for the Figma community, you can browse many frames and download as many frames as you can or you want to see on your Figma board. Mainly, I use iPhone 11 Pro Max since my phone is an iPhone 11, so that I can visualize the final prototypes in my phone by just downloading the app, an app and linking your profile or opening your profile Figma in the app Figma Mirror, so you can use this prototype as or as a real app on your phone. Now, let me explain for you more stuff about the frames. Mainly by just clicking, pressing F or clicking here and just clicking on your board, you can create frames. Now, you can create frames freely, by changing the different size of the frame, or you can just use a predefined frame as I showed you before. So for me, I'm going to use a frame for iPhone 11 by just clicking here, and here you go. Here's your frame. For your frame, you can name it. For example, I'm going to name this page chat. So this is the chat page, and I'm going to add border radius mainly 13, just to have this beautiful effect of a real mobile interface. Now, I guess that's all for the frames, and you can whether have your frame horizontal or a vertical frame. You can change the color of the frame, and you can like add strokes for the frame. Now here's the colors. Let me make it this color, and you can like change the strokes of the frame, the size of the strokes, whether they are inside, centered, or outside. And you can even have effects. For example, you can drop a shadow and scale it. Yeah. So mainly these features or these properties for the colors, the strokes, and the effects can be like applicable on all of your elements or your design elements, since Figma is something like or a very simple tool. Now, that's it for the frames. Now, I'll be like explaining for you the different tools. After that, we're going to make this interface together. So now let's jump to the shape tools. For the shape tools, we have multiple shapes here. We have, for example, the R for rectangle. By just like clicking here or pressing R on your keyboard, you can like create rectangles. Now here's a rectangle. By like pressing R and clicking Shift, you can like create a square. Now for each of these elements, you can have border radius from here. You can modify each one of the border radius from here. For example, I just want to modify one of the border radius or like two of them here. And you can also like change the color. So for the color, we have like some solid colors. For example, this is a solid color. We have the linear gradient. For the linear gradient, you can have many colors to make your linear gradient. For example, I'm making a linear gradient between these two colors. I can modify how the gradient is going to look like. I can add like more additional colors. For example, I'm going to create this beautiful effect of gradient. I'm going to use this color, this color, and this. So like this is a very beautiful like effect of gradients. Now you can like just see it here. And I can also like have radial gradient, and I guess it can like it will look nice on circles or squares. Now this is the radial gradients. I'm going to make it, for example, green, and yellow. So yeah, I'm just going to delete this. And now we have like this beautiful gradient of green and yellow. Now it's a radial gradient. Let's duplicate this shape and apply another type of gradient, which is the angular gradient. Now for the angular gradient, as you see, like we can adjust it. We can use it to animate our buttons and so on. Now another type of gradient, which is the diamond. Now for the diamond gradient, as you see, we can like use this type of gradient, which is like something really difficult to use it or to make it using the linear gradient only. So here's like the different properties of colors. You can like modify the opacity of the fill or the shape. Now, for the strokes, like we can make strokes for our elements or for our shapes. We can change the color. We can modify the size of the stroke. We can either make like the strokes inside the shapes, in the center, or outside the shape. And we can like have more properties. For example, I'm going to make dashes for the stroke or solid, or for example, for dashes, I'm going to make rounded dashes, square dashes, or with no property. I can like join them or make them like with radius, and I can specify the number of dashes that I want to see or to have on my like strokes for this shape. I can also add effects. So here's the effects. You can like scale. It is a shadow. There is a lot of effects. We'll be discovering them, and one of the most amazing effects is the shadow. So you can like scale it on the Y scale it on the x-axis, and you can blur your shadow with the background. You can spread the shadow, and you can also modify the color of your shadow, the opacity too. Now this property can be applied on any of these shapes, any of these icons, any of these text, and so on. Like you can use it everywhere. Let's jump to the next tool, which is L or line. You can like just press shift to have like line on your interface. We can like have the same properties. Just for example, here I want my line to look like an arrow, and I can like modify it as I want. I can make it square, or I can make it round. I can have like a diamond arrow. So that's it for the arrows. And for example, I want it to be this way, so I'm just going to click here and like and to click just on my arrow and click here and have this very beautiful shape. So okay, just like to make it this way and to link between elements in my design. Now here's the ellipse. So the ellipse, you can create circles and ellipse and so on, and you can like change colors and apply the same properties for these shapes that I've shown you before. Here's for the polygon. You can like create a triangle with 3 sides. You can create more polygons with more sides, and that's all. You can here like add radius to your shape. You see, well, I'll just change the color so you can see it. You can like add radius to your shape. You can here like scale or add in the width. Once you want it like to add directly, you can just press plus and add, for example, 30 pixels, and it's going to be added automatically. Here for the hay, you can, for example, press minus 30, and it's going to be this way. Now here we can scale it, and we can add also, for example, minus 56, and it's going to be the position will change on the x-axis or the y uh, axis. Sorry. Now here's our polygon. We can create a set of polygons, and we can animate them and add a lot of properties. Now for the star, for example, I wanted to create a rating system for 5 stars, so I'm going to create just 1 star. Here for the stars, we can make it with 6 angles, 7, and so on, but I'm going to just skip 5. I'm going to add some border radius and to change the color of this star to this shade of yellow. I'm going to add an effect of a shadow, and I'm going just to scale it to 1x, to 1y, add some blur, and just reduce the opacity. Now what I'm going to do is to press Alt in order to duplicate it, and tada, I have like the rating stars. Now I wanted to just like color these stars, so I'm going to have like 4 stars, and one of them is not colored. Now I can group a selection, and I have the rating stars here. You can also like when you zoom in, you can use this tool in order to align your stars and have the same space between these stars. Now that's it for the shapes. We have also the place image. So I'm going, for example, just to go to my desk, and I'm going to choose one of the like the images or the pictures that I have. I'm going to, well, choose one of the images, or the pics, for example this one. Open, then I'm going to just like draw how this image is going to be. Now it's just a place for the image, and yeah, here's like a very like beautiful card that contains an image. Like, instead of creating a shape here, adding border radius, then like copy past the picture, you can just like go here, press K, and select the image and draw the container at once. Now that's it for the images. Now we've been discovering all the shape tools. Let's go to the pen tool. So here you can whether have a pen or pencil. I'm going to use the pen tool, and it is the same for the pencil. Now, now let me just like create a frame. So in my frame, I'm going to create this thing or this shape, which is something really complex to create it using only the other simple shapes. So what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to create this shape. Done. I'm going to give it a color, so linear gradient, and well, it is for the strokes. Let me just take off the strokes, have a linear gradient, and change this, for example, to purple, and this one to another shade of purple. And yeah, so this like illustration, or this shape, sorry, is too difficult to be made using normal shapes. Thus, we have this pen tool that can help you to create fancy shapes, animate them, and add them to your interfaces. Now for the text, we just have to press T or to click here, and we'll be having the hand to write text. So I'll be writing hello world. Now here's my text. For the text, I can either change the family of fonts, the type of font, bold, regular, light, the size of fonts, and here I can have more properties about the text. For example, here I can have more spacing like between the letters. Here, if I have a paragraph, I can like adjust the spacing between the paragraph or the lines. I can center it, whether I have paragraph, I can align it to the left or to the right. And here I can like have the auto layout for the text or for my text. Now for the text, I can also change the color, make gradient and all the different properties for the colors, and make a stroke for my text. For example, I'm going to 0.4 for the stroke. And here's how the text is going to look like. So for the text, it is so simple. You can just like adjust the properties from here. Now, I guess that's all. That's all for everything. Here, for example, we have the hand tool. The hand tool, it can like help you to navigate in your space. And here for the layers, each time I create something, for example, I created this picture, it is going to be added in these layers. So each frame is a layer. Now I have the first frame, this frame and this frame, and each frame contains more elements. Once like I'll be adding this, for example, this button here, so this is going to appear under the frame. Rectangle 15 and vector 3. They are in this frame. Once I wanted to hide this frame, all of these elements are going to be hidden at the same time. Now, before like start making this, let me just explain for you plugins. So, in order to have plugins, for example, this plugin called Iconify, it can help you to have free icons, uh, and open source icon. You have just to type the icon, for example, search, and it can give you a lot of propositions of icons that you can upload on your frame. There is like plenty of plugins that you can have on your Figma space by just going to browse plugins in community, go to plugins and search on the plugins that you want to create, or you want to have on your board. And now, like before start creating this, let me show you the utility of the design system, how to create a design system. So for this text, like this text, when clicking on it, we have like Rubik, it is semi-bold, it is 15, and it is mainly for the headers. So what I'm going to do is to go to style, press plus, add header as a style of text. Create style and done. Once I wanted to create another header, I'm going just, for example, to click hello or to write hello, and I will go here and click on my text and add the style. For example, I have another text. Hey. It is, for example, uh, from this type of phone, and it is italic. Now I wanted to have it from the same style of text. So what I'm going to do is to go to these 3 points and click on header, and the text will automatically change into the same properties of this header. Same for here. For example, I wanted to create a style, or I will just like use another text. So I wanted to create a style for sub header. So the subheader is Rubik regular or Rubik medium. So it is, for example, 16 pixels. So I'm going to just add it as a style, press plus, name it subheader, and create a style. And once I wanted to write a subheader, for example, I go here and click just on subheader, and it is going to be changed automatically. Now, here's how can we like create a style for the text. Now, for the colors, I don't want to frustrate myself, and I want to create like visual identity. So what I'm going to do is to create style for colors. Now, let me show you. We're just going to press or to click on the elements that it is colored with the color I want to create the style with. Press like this for circles, plus, and name it blue. So create style, and the black color is going to be added here. Same for the blue, 4 points, plus, and blue. Create style, and the blue is going to be added here. Same, for example, for this gray, 4 plus, and gray. Now create style. When we go here, we can see all the styles for the text styles and the color styles that I'm going to use in my interface. Now, once I wanted to know what is like the utility of creating styles. Let me show you. For example, I've been creating a style of colors. Well, I'll be just like creating a small rectangle here. I will color it the same color as the orange in my interfaces here. Now here you go. I'll be adding it as a style. Now it's the orange. create style. Now all of the orange things here in my interface are going to be colored using the orange style. For not a normal orange, but the orange style. For example, this way and this way. I'll just choose the color this way, and even for this one it's going to be using the orange style. For this text too, I'm going to use the orange style, and for this, well, let me just like use these. So once I wanted to know what is the utility of creating this style, I will show you. Once I decided that the color of my interfaces is going to be black, white, and orange, but like the client did not like orange. So I'm going to change the color. Like instead of coloring each of these elements alone and reselecting elements and changing the color of each element alone, I'm going just here and I'm going to change the color, for example, to blue, and the colors are going to be updated automatically in all the space. For example, as you see here, this one is changing, this one, and this one. And because the other things are not linked to the style, they are not going to be changed unless I will click on them and try to change the colors. So here you go. Now it is the same for the text style. So for example, I'm using this style, for example, um, the header. So I'm going just to go here for the header and, for example, change from Rubik to Rosario, and this is going to be changed in all the project. So I'm not obliged to update the text each time and select all the text and update them like alone. So creating styles can help you a lot to to work on Figma and also help the team to work with you. So once the other UI designer is here, he's going just to use these styles, and here is like our design system on Figma. We can also like add or add effects. Let's go to this one. So here's like we have an effect of a drop shadow. We click on the 4 points plus and my effect. So create a style, and here's my effect. So once I go here, I just like press on the 4 points, my effect, and the effect is going to be added automatically to any of these shapes. Once I wanted to change the effect, I go to here, and for example, I'm going to change the color of the shadow, and it is going to be changed automatically here and here. So that's all. Now that's it for the effects or the styles or the design systems. Now let me just show you this screen, how we are going to make or create this screen. So we have an empty space. First thing is to color our space to this color, or just use the colors defined on the design system. Now for the icons, I'm going to help to show you how to create this icon. So we're just going to use two rectangles. So we have a rectangle here. It is 4 pixels width, and voila. And this is our like rectangle. I'm going to add some border radius to this rectangle by just clicking here, and we have two border radius. Changing the color to white and pressing Alt to duplicate it. And here you go. Here's my icon. Now I'm going to like group selection and bring it to this frame. Just before start like wireframing or like prototyping, I want to show you the auto layout or the layout grid. So for the grid, we have, as I said, we have columns. For mobile applications, mainly we have 4 columns, centered, and 72 width. So I'm going just to change the color to blue so you can see it. Now here's like the layout grid. So all of our elements should be put it in the columns. Here you go. We can't put text on the margins, but we can use the gutters to put the like elements or text. But the margins, like you don't have to put anything here just to have more white space in your apps. And even for the auto layout, we can create styles, press on 4 points plus, and my layout. Create style, and here's your layout. Once you click on the other screens, you can just like select my layout and it is going to be applied automatically on this space. For the icons, as I showed you before, the plugins of Iconify, you can like have a lot of or multiple icons. I'm going to use this icon here, so just by changing the color of the icon to white so that I can use it on my space. Now here you go. I have the two icons. Now for the pictures, what I did is like I went to Mplash where there is a lot of free or open source pictures. I searched for lamp and I got a lot of results, a lot of good or beautiful results of pictures. I downloaded some pictures and I went to a website called Remove Background. I added the pictures and I tried to remove the background, and here's the final result. Like I had a lot of pictures without background. So I'm going either to use this one or, for example, this one. I can have them both, this or this, as you see in the example. Now I'm going to add this lamp here in the center of my screen. Okay, and I'm going just to hide the layout so I can like see or realize the final results. As you see here, there is like kind of effect of light. Let me just like show you. For example, I'm going to add lamp, a text, and here like more text. For example, type of lamp. Let's say it's like medium or, for example, regular. This is like it is, for example, here, and here we have the description. Here with a medium or a regular. So I'm going just to have the description here. Now, as you see, there is kind of effect here, which is kind of a light effect. So how to create that effect? I'm going to the pen tool. I'm going to create kind of shape here of light. So here's my shape done. I'm going to remove the strokes, add the fill, change it to white, for example, or this kind of yellow to create a beautiful effect. I'm going to effect and I'm going to change it to layer blur. So I'm going to blur it this way. And I'm going to reduce the opacity. And yeah, so just to bring this to front, and I have this like effect of light. I can just like adjust it by reducing the opacity, and yeah, here's for example, it's kinda lightning there, and yes, so I can draw something like this line here, change it to white, change this one to round and round, and just like add it here with some texts. Reduce the opacity and add some numbers, for example, from 19.0 to 16.0. And here you go. So I'm just going to select these texts and yeah. Now, as you see, it's kinda my screen is started to appear and started to um, like getting closer to the final result. Now I will show you how to create cards. So to create a card, you just have to create a small rectangle, add some border radius, and change the color, for example, this color. Add some um, or add a picture. I'm going to use, for example, this picture. Bring it to front, and yeah, here you go. Now I'll be adding an icon of heart. So I'm going to iconify, search for a heart, search, and here you go. Here's a heart. I'm going to change the color to white and upload or import icon. And here's my heart. So I'm going just to take it off of the frame and make it smaller. So here you go, and bring it to front and change the size of the heart. Okay, so here you go. Now I can add like the price. It is okay. So here's the price of this lamp. I'll change it to white, and I'm going to add small dollar sign if I want, and so on. Now we can just like group the selection and add it to and add it to my frame, and here you go. Here's like a card, and we can like press alt, duplicate these cards and add them to the frame. Now just going to add it here. So yeah, I can change the colors and so on and add more buttons and more things to the screen. Now, as you see, well, if you want to create this screen, so it is mainly a rectangle with border radius, a circle, a square, image containers, a rectangle with border radius, a text, and so on. Now, that's all for the phase. Now let's jump to the prototyping. For the prototype, if I want to see how the screens are going to look like, I'm going just to press this button. So here's how the app looks like. Here, when clicking here, we're going to see, for example, this screen. And here we have a hover state. While hovering here, the color is going to change to blue. Now, how to create these effects or these elements? We go to prototype, we go to one of the cards, clicking on one of the cards, for example, this one, I'm going to link it to this page. I'm going to say on top, navigate to screen 2, and now I have, when clicking here, navigate to here. And I will say when clicking or when like clicking here, let's back to this screen. Now let's see the final result. When clicking here, we're back here, and when clicking here, we are on this screen. Now that's it. Now let's jump to this fancy animation of the hover. So I will just make it, instead of like changing this one, I'm going to make the hover for this heart. So what I'm going to do is to create a frame and to like copy paste this heart and go to design and change the color, for example, to orange. Okay. Now for the frame, I'm going to make it look like more, sorry. Yeah. So I'm going to change the color of the frame and I'm going to make zero opacity. Now that's it for my frame. How to make the animation? So I go to prototype, I click on this and I will just like go to this frame. I will say on tab, open overlay, and I'm going to make it manual and close when clicking outside. So I'm going just to put this heart exactly on the white heart. Now for the final result, let me show you how it is going to look like. Okay, so for the final result, when clicking on this, like when clicking outside, the heart is going to be white. When clicking here, it is going to turn to orange. Okay, so here's like the animation. I can, for example, instead of saying on tap, I'm going to say while hovering, and you'll see like while hovering the animation without clicking, just hovering, the animation will going to change or the color is going to change. Same here, it is the same like process. For example, here I created the frame while hovering and I just like manual close when clicking outside and it's the same effect. Let's see here, for example, if we wanted to make this scrolling effects, I have like multiple pictures. I'm going to group selection, frame selection, and go to scrolling and add, for example, horizontal scrolling. When going to see the results, it is going to be scrolled as you see. We'll be having this beautiful effect of scrolling and we can add it, for example, here, or here with these cards. So I guess that's all for today's workshop. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have more questions, don't hesitate. And see you in more workshops. So I hope everything was clear. Thank you so much and take care. You can ask your questions if you want to. Thank you.